Once, in a small village nestled between lush forests and towering mountains, there lived a young archer named Elias. His skill with the bow was unmatched. He could shoot an arrow through the smallest gap in the trees, and his aim was as true as a star in the night sky. But despite his prowess, Elias was burdened by an intense feeling of loneliness. He had no family to speak of, and no friends who truly understood him. One day, as Elias was practicing in the forest, an old man appeared at the edge of the clearing. He was hunched, with a long white beard and eyes that gleamed with wisdom. He watched Elias for a moment, then spoke softly. "You're a gifted archer, young one, but do you know the true power of an arrow?" Elias stopped mid-shot, curious. He had never been asked such a question before. "The power of an arrow?" he repeated. "Isn't it the ability to strike a target with precision?" The old man smiled. "That is only part of it. The true power of an arrow lies not in its aim, but in its flight. It must first bend before it soars. If an arrow never bends, it will never reach its mark." Elias frowned, confused. "But what do you mean? An arrow should fly straight and true, not bend." The old man nodded slowly. "In life, the greatest lessons are learned not through the straight paths, but through the struggles, the bends, and the breaks. What you call flaws or weaknesses are often the very things that shape you into something greater. Trust the bend." With that, the old man disappeared, as mysteriously as he had come, leaving Elias to ponder his words. Days turned into weeks, and Elias couldn't shake the old man's message. He began to feel that the path he had walked all his life of perfect aim, perfect control, wasn't truly fulfilling. He felt something inside him had always been missing, something he hadn't understood until now. He started to let go of his need for perfection and embraced his flaws. He practiced with less intensity and more heart. Slowly, he began to see that the things he had once viewed as imperfections, mistakes, his doubts, his fears were actually the forces that helped him grow stronger. One autumn afternoon, as Elias was practicing near the edge of the forest, he noticed a small bird trapped in the underbrush. Its wing was injured, and it could barely move. The young archer felt a surge of compassion and carefully freed the bird, cradling it in his hands. Instead of leaving it to fend for itself, Elias made a decision. He took the bird home, nursing it back to health. Day by day, he grew attached to the creature, whose flight he had once taken for granted. As the bird healed, Elias began to understand the old man's lesson more deeply. That true strength isn't about avoiding the bends or breaks, but in accepting them, learning from them, and rising again, just like the bird had. Months later, when the bird finally flew away, Elias watched it soar into the sky. A wave of peace washed over him, knowing that, like the bird, he too had learned to fly with the strength of his flaws, not despite them. Years passed, and Elias became known not just for his archery, but for his wisdom. He taught the children of the village to aim their arrows, yes, but also to embrace the bends of life, to cherish their mistakes, and to never be afraid to break, because it is through the breaking that they would find the strength to rise. And so, the village thrived, not in perfection, but in acceptance. The broken arrows, like broken hearts, could always be mended, and they would always find their way to the target.
Moral of the story: true strength doesn't come from perfection or avoiding failure. It comes from accepting life's bends, embracing our flaws, and learning to rise after every break. Sometimes, the things we fear most, our mistakes and imperfections, are the very things that make us stronger and lead us to our greatest potential.